What's up, NHL fans? It is Wednesday alongside Colby Cohen. I'm Jonny Lazarus, and this is your morning cup of hockey brought to you by Betway. If you're going to place a bet on Betway. Please play responsibly, and remember, you must be 19 years of age or older. There was a lot of NHL action last night. John Tortorella scratching Sean Couturier was the biggest story of the evening, and the Flyers come out and beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Rangers didn't look very good against Chef Richard and the Chats Winnipeg Jets. The Jets are a legit problem. We're going to talk about Patrick Kane's overtime winning goal and Detroit's last dying seconds tying goal to get a huge extra point against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And we'll go into the Islanders looking pretty bad against the Carolina Hurricanes, as well as some new rule changes that were proposed in the GM meetings yesterday. So a lot to get into on today's show. It is just Colby and I today. So Colby, how's your morning going so far?
It's all right, Johnny. Can't complain. I'm not loving the fact that it got cold out again. We had like a week last week with all 70-degree days, and I'm a big fan of the warm weather. Here's the other thing I will say. Don't forget to like and subscribe the DFO YouTube page. We've seen huge growth. And the more you like and subscribe, the more content we put out, the more you can be on top of all the awesome shows and the different things going on at the Daily Face-Off. So let's get right into it today, Johnny. Let's talk about Philly. Let's talk about Torts. Let's talk about Sean Couturier. Let's talk about the game last night. I watched a lot of that game. I watched pretty much the whole Flyers game and also 90% of the Islanders game last night as well. And then I probably caught the first period and a half of Tampa Vegas. So I stayed up a little later than I normally do.
I was gonna say,
we were texting pretty late. We were getting into it late last night. See, I don't belong awake at those hours of the night. You see, I'm old. I get grumpy, Johnny.
Well, that was a miscommunication for sure. Do you want to go into that? You want to talk about that? Or, I mean, I guess we can save that for the Carolina Islander talk.
Let's wait till we talk about the Islanders, because that was our Patrick Waugh conversation. But here's what I want to say about this whole John Tortorella situation with Sean Couturier. You saw the quotes yesterday. Couturier said, "I don't like the way I'm being treated." Look, I still, regardless of the fact that they had a massive win, they came out with their hair on fire. The team completely responded. Like, I almost wonder, did Torts do this? Look, Sean Couturier is one of the, even at, playing not his best hockey, is still better than some of the players that went into the lineup last night. Like Lascelles, he struggled last night. I mean, there were 4 or 5 shifts where he couldn't get the puck out. They were hemmed in. He doesn't have a ton of poise. He's playing at the bottom of the lineup. Like, Couturier is better off, even if he's not playing well, than a guy like that. But I just wonder if this was you're not playing good enough for you. Plus, I want to light a fire under the team, because I do feel like, you see your captain, a beloved figure in the locker room, the longest tenured guy. You see that, and I feel like that it's like smelling salt into your veins, right? Like, that will get you jacked up. Like, let's go here. Like, our captain is sitting because our team is not performing all that well right now. And, look, it worked in a sense that they won, but it doesn't work because that's all anybody's talking about, and he might not want to talk about it in the media, which he didn't. He didn't do the daytime press conference. He sent his assistant out there. And then at the nighttime presser, he said, "I'm not talking about it." He wouldn't address it. He said, "I'll talk about the game and the players who played," which he does do that. That's not new for him. But I still don't like this decision. I really don't. Like, guys got balls. Guys got a plan. Seems like every time he pushes a button, it works. I still don't like it. Okay? I just don't.
Well, what don't you specifically like about it? Because I think it does send the message of nobody's safe right now. And I think it does, I've been in both positions, I guess not in the NHL, obviously, but I've been a senior that's gotten scratched, and it's really embarrassing when you're a senior in college getting scratched. And I've been a freshman watching an assistant captain get scratched. So I see both sides of it, and I've been on both sides of it, where when I was the one being scratched as a senior, I was pretty pissed off too. I didn't want to talk to anyone, but the team looks at that when you have a younger group and they say, oh, if Laz is getting scratched, then why wouldn't I be able to get scratched? And then when I was a freshman, I had to wake my ass up if I wasn't playing well, because I was like, oh, well, if I don't play good tonight, my ass is going to be in the seats too if our assistant captain's getting scratched.
And every coach handles that a little bit differently. Look, I the amount of times I got called up to the NHL and got scratched, people are quick to call out how many games I've played. I'm aware, but
no, but getting scratched as like a it's
right. But I also have been called up and scratched and gone on 2-week road trips to Western Canada, the West Coast with our team, sat every game. I just wasn't Claude Julien's cup of tea. So,
yeah.
But I do remember a time where I'm leading the team in goals as a junior at BU. Right? I remember this story. And I played like absolute dog shit on a Tuesday night against Holy Cross. Okay. We lost. It was one of 4 games we lost that year, because that was the year we had an insane season. We were like 35-4 or 5 or something like that. And that Friday we played St. Lawrence, another bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jack decided he was going to make an example of me to everybody else after we lost to Holy Cross and we were the number 1 team in the country. And he puts me in the stands against Holy Cross. Against St. Lawrence on a Friday night. And
you're pissed.
We win that game. I'm pissed.
Mm-hmm.
So who do we play the next night? We play Boston College at home. Well, he's not sitting me against Boston College. Like, I'm leading the team in goals at this point. I think I had a couple more than Benino at that point. What?
Damn.
Yes. Yeah.
Damn.
I think I tied the lead in goals that year with Benino. But so I play that game against Boston College. I had 2-1. And I was like first star of the game. We beat BC. And as I'm coming off the ice, Jack Parker always waited by the locker room door, to give everybody like a handshake, a fist bump, whatever. And as I'm coming off the ice, he looks at me and he says, "Don't ever fuck with me again." And so everybody has their methods to these things. But I just think in the NHL, when you have a guy like Sean Couturier, who's a captain, I just don't like it. And I see people in the chat, saying he wasn't playing well, saying he needed a reset. Look, all of those things might be true. He hasn't been producing offensively, but what I don't like is that, from what I understand, is that he didn't really get much of an explanation, right? Torts didn't say you need a reset. You need to go up to the stands and watch. He just said, I don't like the way you're playing.
Yeah.
We're disagreeing on it. You're out, and, the other thing is if you watch that game, the Flyers got severely outplayed in the third period. They looked like a team without a veteran, right? Like, they could have used Sean Couturier potentially last night defensively to steer, to steady the ship in the third period. So it worked. They won. I would expect to see him come back in, although Torts, is he going to change a winning lineup? I don't know.
That's what I was saying to you, right?
I think he should come right back in.
Yeah.
I really do. I just think, again, you don't handle Bobby Brink and Sean Couturier the exact same way, and I know we saw Danny Briere's comments about how he treats everyone the same. And you said it, no one's safe, right?
Yeah.
So, it's an interesting situation that's probably not going away. And one other thing I want to say as watching the game, Scott Lawton stepped up last night. He had a good game. He really did. I mean, Owen Tippett, it was an obvious choice, right? You could see what he did offensively. Cam York had a really good game. Morgan Frost scores a big goal on the power play, but Scott Lawton played really well. He was really, really thorough last night against a good team playing against hard matchups all game. And Sam Erson in net too. That was a big win for them, Johnny. They needed that. That team is on life support. That's a big, we believe, type of win.
I also wanted to add too, there's a lot of people saying, I think you just alluded to it a bit, but the mental reset aspect of this, there's a different way to give someone a mental reset. This is a message that was sent, right? Do you agree with that? I don't think this is hey, hey, Coots, you need a night in the stands here. Like that's like if like you said, if they have that conversation, that's a mental reset. That's communicating between a coach and a player. This is like hey, you got to step the fuck up.
Yeah.
So
Not even
it's a
you got to
big
step
difference.
the fuck up. This is like a fuck you. Like,
Yeah, it's
and again,
embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
you see what Couturier said. And look, I know Sean. I know he was a good teammate yesterday. I guarantee you he was thrilled that they won. Like, that guy is team above all else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay to be mad and angry. That's why he's a competitor, but he's team above all else. And so, like, Bobby Brink getting sat is a mental reset, right? Sean Couturier getting sat is, a punch in the face. They're very different types of things, because not every player gets treated the same. Like, that's foolish to think that every guy is going to be treated the same, because look, players all need to be coached differently based on their personalities. Some guys react really well to um controversy or getting the punch to the face, and then some guys, they fold under those situations, and you have to handle them a little bit differently. So a huge win for Philly. I think Couturier should go back in the lineup. They hung on for dear life. It was a big bounce back effort for Sam Ersson as well. It really was. He he had an impact on that game, especially as that game got late, right? So I didn't realize the other thing I would say. I didn't realize how good of a hockey player Owen Tippett was. I mean, like, this guy can play in tight areas. I mean, yeah, his speed is great. He's got a big shot, but some of the plays that he made in tight areas last night, albeit against a Toronto team that's just, doesn't defend that hard, and but this guy really can play in tight areas. I mean, this is 15 seconds into the game. A good screen by the Flyers, but absolutely wired by Owen Tippett. That set the tempo in the Wells Fargo Center last night.
Yeah, they scored 19 seconds into the game, right? Like, that's a pretty crazy start. Vic texted us, Torch is the biggest genius in the NHL, like, right off the bat. And I was like, what happened already? Didn't the puck just drop? And next thing I know, I checked the score. It's 1-0 Flyers. But do we have that clip of the speed burst? Oh my God, this clip is insane. Like, we were watching it before we got on the show here, and it looked like it was in fast forward with the way Owen Tippett turns on the Jets there and gets that 2-0. Can we show that again, Vic? Because I don't think people really caught or understood how fast this burst is. Owen Tippett in the middle of your screen, watch him just take off. Like, that looks like it's fast forward.
Yeah, I mean, he goes around Brody and Riley like they're immobile, and neither of those guys are immobile guys. So he really did. He stepped up. He's earned the contract that he got this year. I mean, this is a guy goals. That Torts has really gotten the best out of. I mean, it wasn't working out with Paul Maurice in Florida. Or who, I guess it would have started with Quinville and then Brunette. And I don't know if him and Maurice would have crossed over, but whatever the case may be, the Flyers have done a great job of bringing him along. So big win in Philly last night. I mean, that's just the bottom line. When the Islanders, completely laid an egg.
Well, before you get into the Islanders, on the flip side, Toronto, Sheldon Keefe was very, very disappointed in his team. It's actually our tweet of the night, which we'll get to. So our Tim Hortons tweet of the night, roll up to win is, that was a bad one. Let me do that again. Roll up to win is back for Tim's 60th anniversary. Celebrate our big year with some big prizes, an all-electric Volkswagen ID4, a sun-soaked Hilton getaway, and cash with a daily jackpot of $10,000. Play today on the Tim's app. So our tweet of the night is the Sheldon Keefe quote that was tweeted out by David Alter, who does a great job covering the Maple Leafs. Sheldon Keefe said, I didn't like anybody tonight. Forwards, defense, goaltending, didn't like anybody. And we're seeing this a lot lately from Sheldon Keefe, right? He's a guy who's not afraid to let his team hear it. And maybe that's just a trend going on around the league.
Listen, Sheldon Keefe is a dead man walking in Toronto.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not long for that job. So he might as well say what's on his mind. Like, no reason to hold back at this point.
But tough loss for Toronto, big win for Philly. You just started.
I mean, look, it's a tough loss, but it's also like Toronto's in their spot. Nothing's changing for Toronto, right? So I would lean more into the fact that huge win in Philadelphia, huge 2 points, huge confidence booster. Ristolainen and Drysdale are back on the ice skating. Sammer,
Well, you say their spots solidified, but Tampa's slowly creeping up there.
That is true. And another big win against Vegas last night. No, I hear you. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
But I look, regular season hockey is that's the core four's specialty. Mm-hmm. It is, right? So, and look, Samsonov has played much better as of late. I mean, he wasn't great last night, but they didn't lose because of him last night. Mm-hmm. So, it's a big move. It's a big win. We're going to keep talking about it. Tortorella doesn't want to address it. He wants it to go away. We'll see. We'll just see what happens. So, a little bit of a different story, between the Islanders and Carolina. I know we were going to talk a little Showtime right now, but let's go into the Islanders Carolina game, because I watched most of this game up until maybe 10 minutes to go in the third period, when I just couldn't watch it anymore. I had the split screen going, because when you have Apple TV, you can have a couple of games going at once. After the first, I don't know, maybe 10 to 12 minutes of the game, the Islanders, where the Islanders had a good start, they did. And then Sorokin lets in a leaky goal. And Patrick Waugh, I think you texted us this yesterday, and I saw this on social media. Waugh called out Sorokin either yesterday before the game or the day before, in the last couple of days. And, look, that first goal he let in completely took the air out of the New York Islanders last night, because they had a good start. And then after
I'm also
that,
pretty sure. Yeah, go.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm also pretty sure when Patrick Waugh got the job, he said he was never going to call out his goaltenders, and that was just thrown away. So I just wanted to put that out there too.
Well, Waugh has just been kind of dumbfounded by his big players not playing well in big games. Where's Barzal been as of late, right? And Noah Dobson, who I love, he's a good friend, but his play has tailed off, and Pulock has just been a shell of himself. He has I don't remember Pulock making so many turnovers in his entire career the way he's turning the puck over right now, and they pull Pierre Engvall out of the lineup after warmups, which sounded like it was a last second decision. And it's just another loss where the Islanders spent most of the game looking completely lifeless. I mean, at one point, I think this was probably either late in the second, the Islanders had 10 shots on goal, and they might have had 2 to 3 grade A scoring chances. And I know Carolina can do that to you, the way that they defend the neutral zone. And I know a guy like Barzal gets all of his offense started in the neutral zone. He winds up, and then he likes to weave his way in. But with Carolina, you just end up on the outside of the rink. You just end up on the peripheral, and they'll give you the peripheral, and then they just completely pack the house. They smother the dangerous areas, and the Islanders just didn't generate anywhere near enough offense to be dangerous last night, and it just cracks me up. People who are like, oh, Barzal's a better player than Braden Point. No, Braden Point plays on the inside. Barzal plays on the outside. It's completely different. Okay. One translates to cups. The other doesn't. Okay. I don't care about who they play with and this or that. It's not even a comparison. In my opinion.
Making that point. You love making that point. But
because people are constantly tweeting at me every time Barzal has a point. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he's an all-star. The guy's in the all-star game for a reason. He's a good player, but it's not comparable between those two.
Pizza Sports Guy's in our chat this morning. He's saying, I want a mental reset for my team. He's a big Islander fan. Also, I think the thing with the Islander fans, and I was listening actually to an Islanders Twitter space last night. I always like to chime in or listen when Stefan Rosner hosts one when I can late at night after a game. And Islander fans are down bad, man. There was a guy that went on that Twitter space and said, I've been watching this team for 44 years, and this is the worst team I've ever seen in the 44 years of being a fan. And he didn't mean that skill-wise. He meant it's the most talent they've had, but the least they've been able to use it. I guess the biggest disappointment of a team that this guy has seen over his 40 years of being a fan.
Well, they gave him a little excitement a couple of weeks ago, and now they're just the minute it got tight. And this is what I will continue to say. When you're playing with house money, it's easy to climb. And the minute it gets tight, okay, you see who teams really are. And you look at these Eastern Conference standings, and we see like that things are tightening up, but the only teams, Washington's playing very well and they're pushing, right? They've got some games in hand. Detroit gets that big win last night, but they still don't look great. Tampa seems to be moving. Like they're coming. I don't think they're catching the Maple Leafs. I just don't. Making up 5 points within your division when you have, the Leafs have a game. I don't see it happening. But the Islanders are done. And I saw this in the chat. I don't know who. Oh, it was Pizza Sports Guy said that was in evaluation mode now. And I agree with that. Like, this team is not a playoff team. They don't have the horses for it. They're not getting good enough play from the guys that they've had over the years. The roster looks incredibly stale. And Sorokin's just been okay. Like, he just has been. And he's just not having the year that we're accustomed to seeing. And they're not as thorough with the puck. Like, they're not protecting Sorokin, and Sorokin's not protecting them. Like, I think it's a two-way street, especially after watching the game last night. But I mean, they look like a way inferior. Like, that was like an NHL team versus an AHL team last night. That's how dominant Carolina was.
That Martin Necas goal was terrible. He walks in on a 1-on-4 and rips a high blocker shot from the highest slot. Like, everyone was just standing still. Even Sorokin was like, what the hell? Like, by his reaction, you can just tell he's thinking in his mind, what the hell's going on here? Like,
second goal, similar. I don't remember who scored.
Was that the Jarvis goal?
Jarvis goal.
The gap on that goal was terrible. They just kept. Oh my
God, was
God.
bad, but also the Islanders were back in the house, but nobody was picking anybody up. Like, there were
Jarvis just walked right in.
There were sweaters, and they're just giving up all this easy ice around the net, which is so un-Islander like. It's so unlike them. So they've got problems. Like, Patrick Waugh's got his hands full there. Again, Lou Lamoriello needs to go. It is time. They need to make that decision this summer, and they need to do it in the worst way. The ownership with Malkin and Ledecky, like, it's time to say goodbye, goodbye to Lou Lamoriello. And how about their next 6 games? Detroit, Winnipeg, New Jersey, Florida, Tampa, Philly. Like, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Johnny? Like, 3-3, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that, maybe they get 3 wins in the next 6. I mean, I doubt they're going to beat Florida. I doubt they're going to beat Winnipeg. I doubt they're going to beat. Man. They're not going to beat Tampa Bay. The Flyers, okay. Detroit, maybe. I mean, Detroit's playing with a little more juice. New Jersey's back to playing with house money because they're out of it, so they look like they've got a little bit of life.
They beat the Penguins. The Penguins were,
we see it for all these teams. The minute we count them out, they got house money, no pressure. And then the minute they win a couple games and they climb and it gets tight again, and it's like, we need a must win. That's where we see who these teams are. That's why I always say to you, games in hand, they don't mean shit for these bad teams or these bubble teams, because these teams are not guaranteed wins for them. These are not teams that that they're going to come out and play a hard, consistent 60 minutes and get you a win.
And the Islanders, listen, they've lost 5 in a row. And we talked about it, 2 weeks ago? That stretch of 6 games. They needed to win 4 and 6, which they did. And then they come out now and just lay egg after egg after egg. You can't lose 5 games in a row. What's going on in the chat?
Do you see Pizza Sports Guy? The Isles
are more lost. Me from the shop.
The Isles are more lost in the D zone than Johnny is in the kitchen.
He wrote before, I'm the first customer. He's going to have to healthy scratch from his shop.
You're banned. I heard your pictures on the wall.
Well, I'm supposed to go there tomorrow night, so I wonder if he'll hook me up with some sauces or not. He told me he was going to give me some sauces to make some pasta with the proper sauce instead of the ketchup, which I can't believe how much that's really picked up. The whole ketchup scenario and Pastagate, as we're calling it. I spoke to Nikolai Ehlers about it yesterday. I don't know if everyone saw that quote.
I saw you sent me some audio from it, but I didn't. I'll be honest with you, I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't. But I know Vic did, because Vic's my boy.
I just am not interested in what Euros have to tell me. I've been to Europe. I know what eating. I know what eating in a lot of those countries is like. And there was.
How about Rupper though? Rupper came in to have my back.
That's a very questionable call by Mike Rupp. We're gonna have to probably get him back on the show to talk about that.
I was texting him about it last night. I
think he was just having your back. Rupper likes you, so I think he's just having your back because he sees people just absolutely punching down on you.
He texted me and said it was his pregame meal for his first 3 years of pro, ketchup and pasta. So, who knows? Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right. Well, I know you didn't get to watch any of this game, and I was kind of in and out on this game.
The Detroit game?
The Detroit game.
I saw the end of it. I tuned in when it was 3-2. I turned it on.
Showtime, man. I mean, he's gonna probably drag these guys into the playoffs. Like, honestly, I just feel like he's gonna probably go to like a medieval place and drag this team into the playoffs. I mean, he gets the game winner, ties the game up with a beautiful, Kane assist. He's a point a game guy this year.
38 and 38.
Look, everybody can look at the standings and we see their next 7 games: New York, Nashville, Washington, Carolina. I mean, everybody has hard schedules right now. Here is my question to you, Johnny. Okay. Mm-hmm. What is Patrick Kane signing for this summer? How many years and how much money? What are you doing if you're Steve Yzerman? Because you have to keep him there. You have to keep him there.
You think so?
Yeah.
Would it be crazy to say like 2 years, 5.5 million per? You think that's fair?
Listen, I don't think it's crazy.
I don't think you can sign more than 2 years at this point.
I mean, right? Listen, what would you pay a guy who's on pace for 82 points in 82 games? Like, that's because he's a point a game player with coming off of a hip surgery where he's probably
the longevity.
Still not 100%.
Mm-hmm. But you got to think a little bit of the longevity here, no? Like, is it a guarantee he'll be healthy for more than 2 years, like at this point of his career?
Well, listen, there's no guarantee for anybody to be healthy.
I guess, yeah, so, but
and remember, you do have LTIR if God forbid something were to go wrong.
I don't know. I just think 1 year definitely isn't enough. The guy's 35 years old. Do you want to have him sign past 37? Like, I think the 5.5 million is certainly a fair number money wise.
I think Patrick Kane plans to play until he has to be wheelchaired off the ice. I believe that he's a guy who thinks that he probably still has 3 to 5 good years left in the NHL. I don't know if that's true or not. All I can tell you is I had hip surgery that he had, and it took me a full year after my hip to feel 100%. I played. It was my first hip surgery. I was in college. So I played my junior year with it. But I can tell you, you don't feel good for a year until after that surgery. So he's not at 100%, and he's a point a game guy on not a great team, right? I don't know. Like, I think maybe you give him a 3-year deal and you 6.5, I think is the number, maybe 7 even. Yeah, you got to remember the cap's going to go up.
7?
I mean, listen, think about it.
Game, I guess. Yeah.
Johnny, he's on an 82 points. He's on an 82 point pace right now.
Yeah.
If he drags them into the playoffs, he's Patrick Kane. He sells a shitload of tickets, a shitload of jerseys. Like, I think that's all gets factored in. Now, if he says, look, I don't care about money, save them. But like, I don't know. I'm thinking 3 years at like somewhere between $6 and $7 million is what I would probably offer him. He's 99 points behind Mike Modano for the most as an American-born player. He will get another 100 points. Yeah. I mean, I will bet anything on that.
I agree with that, but should we do another contract bet like we did with Pettersson? Should we set an over-under?
If you want. I mean,
you're saying under. I can't believe we were on the dot with that. That was.
Are you saying it's going to be under 6 and I'm taking over 6? Is that what we're doing?
I kind of think. Well, even the years too. I don't know if it'll be. I would say like under 2.5 years and under 6 million.
Under 2.5.
The hook 2.5 is like the hook in it.
So you're taking 2, and I'm saying
you're saying 3. Yeah,
3.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But here's all I will say. I'm not confident in the years, and the reason for that being is because I think he dictates that.
Yeah.
Like, I think he completely dictates to Steve Yzerman how many years he wants. Like, I really do. I think if he says I want 1, it's 1. If he says I want 2, it's 2. If he says I want 3, it's 3. I don't think Yzerman goes to 4 or 5, but I think they'd give him 3 if he wanted it.
Couldn't you also see him doing 2 and then maybe signing a 1 year or another 2 year in Chicago to finish there?
Maybe. He loves it. His home is there, but
and by that time, you think they'd be a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, but you would, and you just don't know.
Bedard and Kane together for at least a year.
You don't know who the GM's going to be. You don't know where the Blackhawks are going to be. You know, Rocky Wirtz is not the owner anymore. Okay, like none of the people that Patrick Kane had his glory days with are still in that organization. Who knows if he? Who knows if he really wants to go back there? I don't know the answer to that. So I'm just saying, I would feel confident that he'll be above. Like, I'm comfortable with 6 as the push line. I am comfortable with that.
Neil Fody in the chat just said give him 3 years of $5 million because I guess that would be our like we both win.
Because I said 3 years.
Because you said 3 years and I said.
I'm comfortable with 6 being the push. Yeah. It very well could come in between 5.5 and 6. I wouldn't be shocked, but I also wouldn't be shocked if it's $6.5 million. Again, point a game guy. Okay. They don't have any point a game guys on that roster. They don't. And you got to think Yzerman's looking at next year as a playoff year. You have to think it. I mean, this guy's getting a lot of time to rebuild, like time to see it in action a little bit.
Well, this year was a playoff year for them.
What?
This year was a playoff year for them.
Well, we'll see.
No, but like they looked at it as if this is our year to make the playoffs. That was.
I mean, it is, and it isn't. Yzerman sat on his hands at the deadline, and that tells you everything he thinks about this team. That's true. So,
JC in the chat said, if you were Buffalo, would you sign Kane? I would. Good young D, need a scorer.
I mean, yeah, of course you'd sign Kane, but you just have to remember something about Patrick Kane. He's got a major aura, and he needs the puck on his stick. Okay. And so you just have to make sure that you have the right people around him that, aren't going to like, I don't think Bedard and Kane would have worked in Chicago this year.
Not
don't.
This year, definitely not.
Everyone
would have deferred to him every shift.
Everybody defers to Kane. Yeah. So you just got to make sure you've got the right guys that aren't going to just only defer to him. And that's what I would be concerned about. So let's move on to the rules, the noise coming out of the GM meetings about reviews and what's going on and what rule changes are coming and when they'll be coming. Because there's a lot of reporting coming out from, Frank Saravalli and others about what's being talked about, Johnny. So what's kind of caught your eyes so far, coming out of those meetings?
Well, the first rule is that high stick being reviewable, because we've seen so many times where there's a friendly fire high stick and it's called a penalty when it's a guy's own teammate that actually ends up hitting him in the face. And the fact that that wasn't reviewable before, to me, was a joke. I mean, I've seen it happen so many times at Ranger games. I actually remember last season, I think Cale Makar high sticked someone on Colorado, his own teammate, and the Rangers got called for it. And there's nothing you can do. And even after you see the replay, and even the officials probably see they got the call wrong, at that point, there was nothing they could do. So I think that was an important change that needs to be changed. We see it happen a lot in the NHL. Even this year, I think it actually might have been Jack Roslovic when he was on Columbus. I forget which player exactly it was, but they grabbed the opposing player's stick and put it in their own face. It looked like it was an accident, but it was kind of on purpose again. And the refs actually were able to call that one back. But I think that high stick penalty being able to be reviewed now, I think, is a big change, obviously, because it's probably more frustrating when there's an obvious missed call, right?
But so let me just ask you this, and just to be clear here, anything that the GMs come up with, the NHLPA has to approve. That's how this works. NHLPA partnership. Everything always has to be approved by both sides. Here's all I would say. I'm going back to what I've been preaching now for multiple days on DFO Live. Why not get a ref off the ice and get him upstairs, get him on a headset, have him in constant communication with the ref on the ice? You get a body off the ice. So instead of having, 12 skaters, 5 and 5 and 2 goalies and 4 officials, You get an official off the ice. That's more room on the ice. We always want more goals. We always want more offense. That'll create more room on the ice for players to work. That stuff, the guy upstairs should already be looking at that while it's happening and communicating directly to the officials. That way they don't have to go over to the scorer's table and get in the box and look at an iPad. It could be so quickly done that there's no delay in action. By the time, the whistle is blown, and by the time they make their way over to the scorer's table, the call should already be sent down into the official's ear from upstairs, from an official, okay? Let them wear the ref outfit in the press box, whatever, okay? And that way you're not slowing down the game, but you're getting everything right. And to me, that's the most important thing. Let's find a way to get it right without slowing down the game with reviews and whistles and iPads and the situation room.
But let me ask you this. So let's say there's one official on the ice and there's something that happens behind the play. That official doesn't see it. The guy upstairs would say, hey, behind the play, this guy slashes this guy, like call it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you're that official on the ice and you don't see anything and you're just told to call
hold on,
something,
Johnny. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How easy is it to see everything when you watch a game from the Madison Square Garden press box?
I literally never want to sit anywhere else for a hockey game ever.
You see everything from up there. As TV announcers, we see everything from up there. When I'm between the benches, okay, like for the Frozen Four, I'll be between the benches, right? I rely on a friend of mine who works on our crew, okay, who's a spotter. He's a spotter. He's like sort of a jack of all trades. He sits next to John Butchergross in the booth, right? Because there's no Barry Melrose this year. So my friend Ben, who works with Kenny Albert and Eddie Olczyk on the TNT crew as well. You know Ben, you've met Ben, okay? Yeah. He will literally be in my ear talking to me about things that he sees from up top that you cannot see at ice level. Now, there are things that I can see at ice level that they can't see up top. So yes, if something's happening behind the play, okay, then or how about this? Maybe you have two officials and one of expand the responsibilities of a linesman or a ref, right? That way you have one guy that does both reffing and line. I don't it needs to be flushed out. Okay. I've never reffed, right? So I don't fully, but I just think there's a way to get it right without bogging down the game. And they should be keeping that in mind as they look at all these tweaks, because the last thing anybody wants to see is more reviews. It's the last thing anybody wants, but we need to get things right because the game is so fast.
Also funny, you just mentioned the between the benches. Last night, Brian Boyle made his between the bench debut with the Rangers at MSG, and I texted him. I was like, "You between the benches for the first time today?" He goes, "Dude, it's so fast, and I'm freezing." It's a big adjustment. Yeah,
I always layer up. I always go sweater, undershirt. I layer up between the benches, and you should get Brian Boyle on our show.
Yeah, I would definitely love to. He's the best. I can definitely ask him.
And I know him a little bit too. So
yeah,
he is a good guy. So
Victor goes, can anyone see behind him? He's a tall dude. He's a big guy.
He is a big guy. So he did John Giannone's job, or he was live involved?
No, he was doing the benches last night. Yeah.
And was Micheletti not there?
No, it was Sam and Joe, and then Boyle between the bench.
But so let me ask you a question. When Giannone is between the benches, his mic isn't open. They throw to him for reports. Yeah. They turn his mic off until it's his hit.
Yeah,
right.
Hit. I don't know if Boyle did hits or not.
A traditional between the bench analyst has an open mic, right? They're just part of the call. The way Bush is doing it on TNT, the way I do it with ESPN, Ray Ferraro, whatever. There's a difference between a reporter being there and an analyst being there. So I'm that's why I'm asking.
He was probably, I didn't watch the broadcast. Obviously I was there. So my guess would be that he was an analyst, but I'm sure someone in the chat might be able to help us out that watched the game last night.
Yeah. So one other thing I want to quickly address from the chat, Johnny, as I think we move along, and I know there are other rule changes and things to talk about, but what I think we should do is we should wait until things become official, and then we can weigh in, because right now there's not been approval. Nothing is finalized. These are just going to the bigger committees. They still have to agree, and then the NHLPA still has to agree. So I kind of want to leave some of it alone. But the one thing I do want to chat, someone was asking me about the hip surgery in the chat. I don't remember.
Also, JC said Boyle had an open mic last night.
Okay, so the mic was open, so he was in around the game. So as far as the hip surgery goes, I saw a couple of people buzzing about that. So it obviously depends on the severity. The guy who did my hip was Brian Kelly. He's at Hospital for Special Surgery in New York. He does, I'd say, 80% of the professional athletes in the NFL, the NHL, the MLB. I mean, when you go to get surgery from him, the jerseys in his office are like ridiculous. It's like he only puts up Hall of Famers jerseys, obviously. Mm-hmm. But what I can tell you about the surgery is they go in, they repair the cartilage that kind of sits between the head of your femur and your hip capsule, right? And then they have to shave the bone to kind of smooth it off so it fits like nice and flush, right? Within 24 hours, they actually have this machine that moves your leg back and forth. So it's like almost like you're laying on your back riding a bike. It's called a CPM machine because they want to get blood flow and movement to your hip right away. You're on a stationary bike 36 hours after your operation. So Kane would have gone through that. Every guy who's done hip surgery goes through that.
They're so common too, right? The hip surgeries.
In
like,
hockey,
so many guys.
Every guy, the hip surgery and the sports hernia surgery.
You can't even walk, right?
Yeah, well, it's very painful because it's this pinching feeling.
Yeah.
Like basically what happens is your hip capsule and your femur start pinching, your hip capsule and the top of your femur start pinching together. And everything you do, putting your shoes and your socks on. Like Kane walked with a limp in Chicago for 2 or 3 years while I was there and before that. So
even last year when I saw him walking around, like, you could tell he was
total limp. Yeah. So you're right on a stationary bike. You're back on the ice in about 8 weeks, but it takes you a year to feel like yourself, like to fully not feel sore, to not need a lot of treatment on it. Like I bet Kane is still getting a lot of treatment on his hip. So I just wanted to give a little more detail from my hip surgery experience. I'm pretty sure the guy who did Kane's hip, I don't think it was Brian Kelly. I think he used Mark Philippon, who is the surgeon who Brian Kelly trained under out in Vail, Colorado. It's like you either go see Brian Kelly or Mark Philippon. Like you meet with the surgeons, you see who you like more. Brian Kelly, I was just easier. He was in New York. I was in Boston at the time, so that was just easier. The Bruins guys all got pushed down to Brian Kelly. He's also the New York Giants hip and knee doctor as well. So there's plenty of NFL presence in his office. So it was Peter Dempsey who asked. So I wanted to just give you a little more detail on that, Peter, just so you could, kind of understand that. So I actually think there's still more to go for Kane. Like I'm not going to be surprised if he just keeps feeling better and better. And then even next year, I think he'll be better, right? I think he'll be actually better next season.
I actually want to keep talking, Colby, because I want to find Peter's tweet from last night. Peter was giving me a lot of shit about that.
All right, well, look, I want to go. I want to start going into the games for tonight and look at the schedule a little bit tonight, because there are some impactful games as you look for Peter's tweet.
Yeah.
And look, it starts with Toronto and Washington. Jeremiah's Capitals have a huge opportunity to take advantage of Toronto on the back end of a back-to-back. Sheldon Keefe called out his team. Washington is really just committed to defending so much harder, committed to tracking the puck and really giving the defense an opportunity to kill plays. It's the first game of a home, it's the first home game for Washington after a Western Canadian road trip where they fared quite well. And sometimes you see a little bit of a letdown in that first home game back, but it's a big game tonight for Washington. I mean, you're basically in playoff mode if you're the Capitals, right? You've got to win.
Yeah.
At least 2 out of every 3 the rest of the way if you want to make the playoffs. Did you find the tweet?
I sent it to Vic, yeah, but I also wanted to read this question that my roommate actually texted me last night. I don't know if we have any Capitals fans in the chat, but my roommate
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah's a Caps fan?
Oh my, where have you been?
I thought Jeremiah was just a fan of everybody.
Dude, on Jeremiah's show last night, he was wearing the old school Caps uniform that they need to go back to. That's one of the
eagle, the bald eagle one.
Yeah, that's like
that jersey's sick.
Jerseys.
That jersey's sick. Jeremiah, I didn't know you were a Caps fan. That's my bad. I got to pay more attention. But Rowan
sorry,
said,
Jeremiah, you see what I deal with now.
Yeah, that's on me. But Rowan said, if you're a Caps fan, would you rather see Ovechkin retire as a Capital and not break the record, or leave and break the record? Because Rowan thinks their offense stinks, and he doesn't want to see this turn into like a, Patrick Marleau get traded so he can break a record kind of scenario. So what do you think? Or I guess what would Jeremiah think?
I think Ovi retires a Cap. I think he's there. He's a lifetime player there. I do. I think that, I wouldn't be shocked if Ovi ends up as part owner of the Capitals when he retires. Like
Rowan said, I'd personally rather him hypothetically go to a contender and score 52 next year than crawl for 3 more years.
But I don't crawl. I mean, listen, the guy was in a slump. He had to change his sticks at the beginning of the year. I know Jeremiah has been talking about that more than anyone. And he's going to end up with 25 goals this year. Like, that's not bad. Like, you got to think 25 this year, maybe 25 again next year. Like, he's getting it as a Cap. So that's a huge game tonight. It's probably, there's 2 pretty intriguing games. The Arizona-Dallas game, Dallas, 2 ends of the spectrum. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to probably be watching the other games tonight, not that game. And then the Minnesota-LA game. Like, this game has implications. It's the second half of a back-to-back for both teams. Minnesota gets another big win. Okay, LA not so much.
No, LA won that. LA won last night.
Oh, they won last night, but
Vegas.
They've been so inconsistent. Yeah, Vegas lost to Tampa.
Vegas lost last night.
Right.
But this is a playoff game tonight.
There's implications here.
Yeah.
Minnesota can't afford to lose a game for the next 8 days, probably. Like, they've got to win. They got to reel off. They got to keep going.
And also Minnesota won over the heart of Vic. Finally, Vic was able to hit a bet last night. He took Minnesota in regulation, and they won that bet with ease. I don't think he sweat it for a second. And before we bring Vic on for his Betway bet of the night, we do want to throw it over to Pete Dempsey's tweet last night. Pete's always talking shit. He's a big Ranger fan, but he loves to let me have it. So shout out to Pete Dempsey. He tweeted last night, I want y'all to know I whipped this up tonight because my palate had to be cleansed of Jay Lazzy 23's nonsense. He made some spaghetti and meatballs with some.
That should have been our Tim Hortons tweet of the night right there.
Yeah.
Well, all I have to say, Pete, all I have to say about that is I was a big Rayo's sauce guy until I met my wife, who is a South Philly Italian. And anytime I pulled out Rayo's early on, she looked at me in total disgust that I was eating sauce from a jar, total disgust. Now we don't even keep red sauce in our house because if
you just make it from scratch,
there's always tomatoes in our house because she I'm just going to make a sauce. And my kid loves anything with tomato sauce. So let's get to our Betway bet of the day, Johnny. Let's keep this moving along. Betway's got an unbelievable promotion going right now. You can get a free bet of up to $200 if your first bet loses. You create a new account, use the QR code that's right up on our screen right now. And if you lose your first bet, I repeat, bet the 200, take a big swing. If you lose it, they're going to refund you $200. Okay. Then you can continue to use that money to bet on games, bet on props, bet on sports, whatever you like to do, you can continue to do that. The offer's available only outside of Ontario. So sorry if you live in Ontario, this one's not for you, but an unbelievable opportunity to get involved and take a big swing. You get a free swing for $200. Betway's a great sponsor and partner for us. They're our headline sponsor. We've got our bet of the day. We've got our quote unquote betting expert, Vic, who we're going to bring on right now. I don't know if you can really call him that. If you really want to make money, you probably should fade Vic. Vic, I know you're looking at something tonight with Minnesota and LA. What do you got for us?
Well, we're on a 1-game win streak here. Alrighty, the bet of the day today, we're going to that Minnesota and LA game, and there's only one team I can count on, as you know, and it is the Minnesota Wild at plus money, plus 125. They're 5 points back of the LA Kings, and Colby, you mentioned earlier, a bunch of teams play with house money. Minnesota's been playing well. This is the game. This is the one where the pressure's on. The one thing that's different about Minnesota and all the other teams that choked away when that pressure hit is Minnesota has Marc-Andre Fleury. He's been there. He's done it. He knows what it's like to play in a big game, and I think he's going to be the difference in this one. Minnesota money line plus 125. Betway bet of the day.
All right, Betway bet of the day. Thanks to our friends at Betway. We love the partnership. One thing I will add, okay, Minnesota lost.
I have one thing to add too after.
Minnesota lost Jonas Brodin last night. He had a little bit of a tangle up with Alex Killorn, and he kind of gets thrown down to the ice. He limps off, no pressure. I don't know if anybody in our chat saw an update on that. I did not. Chef Richard says the beard is coming in nicely, Vic. That's Vic's 5 o'clock shadow. All right, Don't kid yourself. Vic's probably shaved 3 times since he lost the bet. So Johnny, take us home here. What do you got?
Well, I just wanted to add that there's not enough love going around right now about Kirill Kaprizov. In his last 20 games at Minnesota, he's been carrying them, and he's a big reason why they're even in the hunt right now. Guy's got 17 goals in his last 20 games, 32 points in that span, and 19 even strength points. He's doing it at 5-on-5. He's doing it on the power play. Kirill Kaprizov, I feel like, is one of the best players in the NHL that does not get talked about nearly enough. I know he's only been in the league now like 3 or 4 years, so it's, maybe he hasn't. I mean, that's a 100-point score. He had 100 points. This is elite. This is an elite guy that I don't think gets enough love around the league. You know what I mean? Like last year, he has 40 goals. The year before that, 47. He's about to hit 40. He's got 36 this year. Like this guy is unbelievable, and he's a big reason why Minnesota is even being talked about to make the playoffs right now.
When you're getting 35 goals a year from a guy, I mean, plus, like, that's money in the bank. That's worth a lot to a general manager.
He has 311 points in 265 career games. That's insane.
He came into the league a little bit older, but he's been worth the price of admission. So,
well, he's 26, so he came in as like a 22-year-old, 23-year-old.
Yeah, he's like 23. Stayed in he stayed in the KHL a little bit longer. So so we didn't talk about the Rangers last night. I know you were at that game. Look, Winnipeg keeps on rolling. We'll probably talk about them, more as we continue to go. They do seem like they're playing well in the absence of their head coach. Connor McDavid had a highlight reel goal last night. Everybody already saw it on social media, so we don't need to go there, Vic. I know you want to throw that up there. The Bruins absolutely steamrolled the Sens. I saw Pinto score a goal. I almost texted you, Sens are so back. Yeah. I know that's your line. Another hat trick for Pasta. And how about my boy Kevin Shattenkirk last night? 3 apples. Getting an opportunity back in the lineup. And Jim Montgomery's created competition. He said, look, we've got 8 healthy, able bodies on D. Whoever's playing good is going to play. So now you've got a ton of competition between Shattenkirk and Peak and Lorai on those bottom pairs, Wotherspoon. So I like that internal competition. I think that pushes guys to be really mentally sharp and really dialed in. But yeah, I think that's what we got for the day. Johnny, you want to finish with a couple of thoughts and then take us home?
Well, yeah. Also, Big E added over in the Caps Leafs and Ovi to score a goal. Remember, we're gonna start, I think, adding a little bit more time to the Betway segment to give our listeners in the chat some time to add their bets. But we said yesterday
we need them in the beginning. Yeah, we need them in the beginning. If you want us to maybe look at your bet as our Betway bet of the day, which I'm happy to read off, you got to get them in when the show starts. Okay, so that way we can get the graphic and get it set into the show. So if you want to be heard for the Betway bet of the day, get it in early in the show, and we'll pick one of you guys to do that. But I think that's all we got today, right, Johnny?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit just about the Winnipeg Jets because I think they are legit. I know Spit and Chicklets said like last week or 2 weeks ago that there's a player in the NHL that said they're the biggest frauds. I watched them play last night. Sure, the Rangers put a lot of pressure on them in the third period, and Connor Hellebuck had to come up big. But the Jets, the way they zipped the puck around in the offensive zone, I mean, it was unbelievable. I was actually in shock. I looked over to my right, and Lou Orlando was sitting next to me, and David Kolb on my other side, and I was like, oh my God, like this team actually is a legit contender. And I kind of didn't take them seriously, I feel like, for the most part this year. But Scheifele hat trick, Hellebuck, 39 saves. Josh Morrissey, so underrated, so good. Kyle Connor, 30 goals, most underrated goal scorer, I think, in the NHL. But I just wanted to credit the Winnipeg Jets because I thought they played well last night. So that's all I wanted to say at the end. But that's all I really got today, Colby.
Good job today, pal. See you tomorrow.
Yep. Hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you to the chat for being involved. Thanks to our producer, Vic. And we will talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.